I know that you recently bought Hella Inc., and you've taken over as the CEO and president. But if we backtrack a little bit, the story of you and Hella and Alan Hella, the founder, is a really interesting one that people might not know, and I think is really a great way to sort of kick off this show because it really is about leadership. So I wondered if you'd tell that story for us.
Yeah, so in 2010, when we bought Design Within Reach, there was a beautiful or interesting article, wasn't beautiful, in the New York Times about John McPhee and I coming in to run and take over Design Within Reach. And the first page of the article had no pictures of us, but had a huge picture of Alan Heller holding up the iconic Bellini chair. And the title of the article was, "Is a Solution Within Reach?" And Alan was in the big picture because he was suing Design Within Reach for copying his iconic chair. To make matters worse, not only did Design Within Reach copy it, but they called it the Alonzo as a little you know, tick to Alan. And he was suing people individually, he was suing the company, and that was the first thing we kind of walked into. We were in San Francisco, that's where the company was, and our first trip back to New York, we had a meeting with Alan at his Fifth Avenue showroom. And he should have been the enemy as we walked in. And I can tell you, we walked in as if he was our best friend. He was right in the lawsuit. They shouldn't have copied him. He was a man who stood up and fought for design. And we became friends, and we immediately flushed all the goods out of the stores, not even through the stores. We pushed them to the outlet, didn't sell any online, and put his products back in and featured them and did really well. He became a friend, and he stayed a friend. And he had a little deli across the street on Fifth called Eisenberg's Deli, which is like Alan's famous spot to take people for lunch. And he had a sardine sandwich, which was disgusting. And he watched John and I eat, and he was amazed at how much corned beef John McPhee and I could put down in about 45 minutes. He commented on it a lot. And he became a great friend. I always said, Alan, we can double your business. We can triple your business. Just do X, X, and X. And he literally wasn't interested. He really didn't care about money. And then when I left Design Within Reach, I was like, Alan, I have a fantasy about buying your company. I want to buy your company. And he just said, you'll have to deal with my widow. Always said the same thing. And then he got sick, unfortunately. And even when he was sick, we were having lunch. I'd bring my daughter in. And then he passed. And I ended up, unfortunately or fortunately, dealing with his widow. And he died sticking to his guns. He had threatened to bury himself with all the molds, which would have been a bummer. But luckily, he didn't get that far. But you mentioned the different things I've done charitably. I'm also on the board and permanent ambassador to Be Original Americas. So not only did we get those knockoffs out of the stores, but we became spokespeople in the fight for authenticity and design. And I would take Alan to those meetings. I would feature him. I'd make beautiful speeches about him that he couldn't hear because he didn't bring his hearing aids. But it ended up all good. And it was, sometimes when people criticize you or they're against your company or things like that, sometimes they're right. And I didn't do those things that he was suing us for, but he was right, and it ended up working out.